All right, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, I'm Debbie McClure. I live in Orlando, Florida. I'm a general manager of a hotel. I've been for 15 years. And I go to church every Sunday with my husband, and we just enjoy life as a married couple for 37 years.
That's awesome. So, how did you first come to know the Lord?
I first came to know the Lord when I was a little girl of age 8. And we were going to, many people that are my age will understand this, that we were going to a Good News Club. And a Good News Club is something that happens after school. And you go after school and then you learn about Christ. And they have, back then it was flannel graph and stuff like that, and different stories. And I learned about Christ that way, even though my parents were Christians and everything. I still had to come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, and that's when I became a Christian.
Great. So you were taught from a very early age the importance of evangelism and loving others and reaching out to others, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I did that. I could see that through my parents, because my parents were very loving and caring for people, and my dad being a pastor, that helped a lot.
Right, right. So when you met us, I was probably 2 or 3, I think.
Correct.
And we had just moved into townhomes.
Yes.
Okay.
We had bought, you guys had been there first, and then we bought right next door, and we had a son. I think he's probably a couple years older than you.
Yeah.
His name was Chad, and that's how Millie and I, kind of got together. But we both had small children, and you used to come over a lot and
That's
ask
great.
for things. It was so cute.
So tell me about, what was my mom like back then?
Your son is attempting to reach you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Hang on. Chad, let me call you back, okay? Bye. Let me turn that down, too.
This is okay. This is an informal video.
Oh, let me do that. Hang on. I am not used to this phone yet.
That's okay.
Let's see. Let me get it off. There we go. What was the question? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So what were my mom and dad like back then?
Your mom was very talkative.
Yeah.
She loved to talk, and that's how we really got to know her. And she was just loving. Even back then, she's just, caring, even though she wasn't a Christian or anything. And your dad was on the road a lot. So, Tim, my husband Tim, would help her take care of things around the house while I was gone. And we just became good friends, and, just started, talking to her a little bit about the Lord. Not too much, because, she was raised Catholic and that, and she let us know that. And, but, eventually we just started talking about the Lord. She became very interested in it.
Right. She always talks about a void that she knew she had before the Lord, and after, I guess. So what all took place after that?
Well, after that, she just started asking about church and where we would go every week and that, and I would tell her, and then I'd tell her about Wednesday night. She'd just see us go all the time, and she became very, very interested. So I asked her, I said, would you like to go some Sunday? And she said she would. And then she started bringing you on Wednesday night. She ended up accepting Christ as her Savior and everything. And your dad was a different story.
Right.
When he would come home on the weekends and that, he would in a way, he would kind of make fun of us, but in a funny way, oh, you're going to church again, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was always in a way interested, but what was cool is God was using television to bring your dad to the Lord. And I know there's some wacky things going on with TV sometimes today, but God, when he was in his hotel room, he would tell us that he would turn on certain, pastors and that. I don't know if you know that, but he would turn on certain pastors, and God was using that to kind of soften his heart. So he was, you know that verse in the Bible that says some will, plant the seed, some will water it, and
Right.
some will harvest it. Well, we kind of had everything about it. We were able to plant more as he had been listening to TV, and we got to keep watering it, and we would just say little things, just little things. And then one day, your dad came over to our house, and he told Tim, "I'm going to accept Christ as my Savior." And we were like blown away. And Tim says, "Well, come on, I'll show you. We'll do it now." And he goes, No, I want to do it right. I want to walk down that aisle. I want to go all the way down that aisle." So Tim says, "Well, you don't have to wait till Sunday." But he wanted to wait till Sunday, and he walked down the aisle, and Tim got to lead him to the Lord.
Right.
And that was like, everybody in the church was crying. It was just amazing. First of all, him being Jewish,
Yeah. I even remember there was
such. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, there was such a difference between your mom being a Puerto Rican Catholic and him being Jewish, and him not really even doing the Jewish faith or anything.
Right.
But God, God was faithful, and God, used everything for him to come to know him.
Right. I remember and I've heard of this because but I remember my mom talking about a prayer chain that was actually going on.
Yes, there
for my
was.
dad.
Now that you brought that to memory, there was. We had a real active prayer chain, and we had actually a great women's Bible study back then. I don't know. Your mom will remember this when I say it. Miss Sharon Rismondo.
I remember that name. Yes.
You remember that name? Her and Cindy Vetter, and you probably remember that
Yes.
name. And all those ladies, we were all young. We were like in our 30s, but God used us in a mighty way through prayer and everything, and praying for Millie and praying for Charlie to come to the Lord. And like she said, it's so awesome that it didn't take very long for him to come to the Lord, because there's many times. I have a friend that took her like 20 years to pray for her husband, but God was faithful.
Right.
And look where it all came about.
Right.
You and everything in your ministry.
Oh, wow. Yes. And
I'm teary-eyed thinking about it.
Oh, yeah, because I picture my life probably very differently if you had not been faithful to share God's love with my parents, and to love them even when my dad was probably not very entirely lovable.
Yeah.
But I know for Veronica, my sister, might not even be here, because in talking with my mom, his alcoholism was driving such a wedge between them that they were discussing splitting up, and Veronica may not have ever existed.
Right. I remember she came over one time and said that she, thought they might be breaking up, and I said, well, let's just pray about it, because God is faithful, and at the time, I think Tim and I, we were married close to like 10 years by then, so we knew a little bit about marriage, not as much as what we know now, and God's faithfulness in a marriage and everything, but we just said, keep communicating with him, and we'll just keep praying for him. And we had a really strong prayer team that, stood behind your mom and prayed.
That's awesome. And I don't even know that thank you is even thank you seems too simple to say to you, but it's made all the difference in my life and my family's life, and I ended up marrying a wonderful Christian man, and it could have been very different.
Well, it's just about obedience, that's all it is. Even today, as a general manager of a hotel, that's my mission field today, and I have to be obedient, and I have a couple people that have already come to know the Lord, that are going to the same church I'm going to, so God's faithful, and you have to be ready in season and out of season, no matter what, and, even when we don't want to sometimes.
Right.
Because God can use us even ladies out there that don't think that God can use them, man, just pray. Prayer is being used by God.
Absolutely.
Anything that you think, that God can use in your life to get, your sister or brother next door saved, or someone in your family.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your faithfulness and for sharing with us and continuing this relationship years later. So I'll just say goodbye for right now. And thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to meet up in Jacksonville sometime.
Yes.
Okay?
Hopefully.
Okay.
That would be good, okay?
Thanks.
Skype me anytime.
Okay, I will.